Sending you guys this.
Come on. We got a show to do, Tom.
What is that one? Is that the same one?
I know.
Zeppelin, man.
The what?
That's Led Zeppelin.
You never heard that before?
I'm a Motown guy, let me tell you.
Oh, you're a Motown.
All you Motown people out there. Temptations. The Temptations. I saw the Temptations several times. I saw them when they were Temptations, and I saw them when they were like, after they were tempted too many times. You know, when these bands go through about 4 or 5 evolutions of I saw one of the Temptations, and now I can use the name of the Temptations. They're all like white guys, right? From 4 black guys to 4 white guys.
It's kind of like Michael Jackson.
Yeah. On his own. But it is a wonderful Thursday here, the 11th of December, and we're keeping track of how many days? 2 weeks.
Oh, God, that's right,
So
it is.
Christmas is on a Thursday. Do you get the Friday off for all you workers out there? I get a long weekend. Pretty cool for everybody.
Yep.
And Chanukah. Schmucky, is it Chanukah or Hanukkah?
5 days till Hanukkah.
But is it Chanukah
It's
or Hanukkah?
Hanukkah or Hanukkah, like a little spit.
Okay.
But it's not Chanukah.
You gotta kind of
Unless you're a goyim like you.
Okay. Well, I want to get it straight. Trying to get it straight. But it's
Unitarians get confused about that, too. You know?
the who?
The unicorns.
You unicorns get a
Yeah,
little
we get confused with that, too, so... I
But,
feel your pain, Tom.
But we're here, everybody, as you're driving in your automobiles. That's 7 minutes after 4 o'clock on a still a little chilly. Normally it's 80
It's freezing
degrees.
here, man. It's
cold.
freezing. I can't believe
Yesterday was cold. That was a cold day. But you know what? When I talk to friends or relatives up north, I go, it's a little cold down here. Boom! They hang up immediately.
As they should.
As they should. You don't know what cold is. Boom. And having lived in New Jersey, cold. Then going to Chicago, colder.
I can relate to that one.
And then going to Denver, coldest. Now, Chicago is actually colder than Denver. Denver says they boast 300 days of sun per year.
And 200 days of freezing.
It gets, it's really bizarre because in the wintertime, you got the heat on in your car in Denver. It's like 40 degrees. And then the afternoon, because you're up a mile high, you're driving in your car. It's still cool outside, but inside your car, you have to open the window. It gets so hot because of the sun.
It's like a greenhouse.
It's like a hothouse is what it is.
Other thing with that Colorado
It used
is
to be a great city. What?
you grab your heart and, you go up about, 14,000 feet. It's a mile high, so 5,000 feet, I guess. But it's still hard to breathe.
In the day, I used to be able to
It
go...
is no harder to breathe than if you were a tear gas.
All the way up to the top of those mountains. Then I moved to Florida, sea level. I remember I went back to Colorado to teach at 9,000 feet at this school one year. And I flew to Denver, then drove right up to LA up there to teach. And I start teaching, and I'm going like this.
A little woozy.
And I got hit. I never knew what altitude sickness was.
Oh, it hit you hard.
But it hit me very, very hard. And there was an EMT there. He laid me down and threw cold water on me and all this stuff.
He waterboarded you?
He waterboarded me. Dopes. These dopes. Don't get me started on Feinstein and McCain. But let's touch on that. Today we're going to center, folks, on a fascinating speech that a dear friend of ours made in Europe a few days back, Mr. Geert Wilders. Really, it's Wilders, but people call him Wilders, whatever. He is the parliamentarian form of government in Holland. Holland's now called the Netherlands. And he made some statements about Islam and about Moroccans in particular. And the government of the Netherlands is now considering, for the second time, bringing hate speech charges against one of their parliamentarians. He delivered this very short speech from the floor of Parliament, and we're gonna deconstruct it to see what's factual, what may be hateful in it, and what may be instructive and informative for all Western countries as we deal with the issue of non-assimilated Islam. Did you get that? Non-assimilated Islam.
You mean Islam?
In Islam.
Just like we would deal with non-assimilated Mexicans or non-assimilated Italians or non-assimilated...
Stop.
What?
You said non-assimilated Italians.
Right.
When the Italians came here
Right.
They
in the
assimilate.
early and mid-19th century, they assimilated.
Right.
When the Jews came here, they assimilated.
What does assimilated mean? I mean, we got very smart listeners and viewers, but assimilated may be beyond the reach of some of our listeners. So what does
Get it spelled
assimilate?
with 2 syllables?
What does assimilate mean?
It means to adopt the culture, the laws, the ideology of the host country to which you come. Like, for example, if I was going to go to Japan and live...
don't talk like this. How do you talk?
No.
Oh.
No, I would. I would try to adopt the language. I would try to talk in Japanese. I would try to assimilate and learn. Even when I go to foreign countries, I try to speak French.
When in Rome.
And Mark is not just saying it. Mark has lived in numerous foreign countries. He's not just saying it for the sake of the show.
And then when I find, and this is what I've noticed about other Americans.
You fitting in... Mark's a rather large human being,
Yes.
tall and hefty.
He's very masculine.
I would say, compared to the average little Chinaman, right, or
Yeah.
Japanese person, you're much bigger.
He's a giant.
So assimilating in physically.
No, actually, when I've been over to Japan, they've actually always welcomed me with open arms. They look at me as a sumo wrestler, I guess.
as a sumo, yes.
They actually do like big people, and different mindset.
What was the guy? They tied him down. Gulliver. You were like Gulliver
I
in
was.
Japan, right?
No, but I still try to speak Japanese as much as I could. I tried to honor their traditions. I tried to,
But here's the problem.
Mark's huge in Japan.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. At 13 minutes after 4 o'clock on December 3rd, 2 weeks before Christmas, 5 days before Hanukkah,
All right.
here's the problem. And this is a very important point for our listeners and our viewers, as today we're going to look at the assimilation of various cultures into one culture. We're talking specifically now, Mark, you going over to Japan. Japan's very nationalistic.
Right.
Okay. It is not one of these countries that was created in the past couple of 100 years. Japan's a very old culture.
Right.
And they have old traditions and similar looks, and it's very nationalistic.
Yes.
Everybody's Japanese. There aren't too many other nationalities.
Right.
As are many countries. They're nationalistic. Is the United States nationalistic?
No.
Well, in a way, it is. It is.
What is the nationality, the original nationality of the United States?
Well, I'm just saying there's a pride. There's a
No, but that's not a nationality.
It's xenophobia if you're pro-American.
no, but the nationalism comes in the pride of your country. Like, I'll give you a good example. Okay, is when I was over in France. It didn't used to be.
Oh, now here's the world traveler. You're probably in Israel.
When I was in France, I talk like this.
I did.
Were you in Italy?
Yes.
Oh, let's test them. Were you in the crazy one? Australia?
Yes. Yes.
You were in Australia?
Yes. I was in Australia.
How about Venezuela?
Actually, yes, I was in Venezuela too.
Oh.
So, but
He's a world
here's
traveler.
the
Now,
difference.
Schmucky, what countries have you been in?
I've been absolutely nowhere. Thank you for asking.
Okay, let's go
I'm
back to-
hoping to go to Israel with you in a few months.
Okay, good.
Well, let me explain what I mean by nationalistic or not. The French have always been almost non-nationalistic. They've always been, even though they're proud of their country, they're not big flag wavers, if you will. But recently, they started to become nationalistic because they're trying to get an identity, and it's America. We have that identity. We have a national feeling. We are Americans. When we travel abroad, we travel as Americans, almost as representatives of this country. And that's the point I was trying to make earlier was the other Americans that I've seen that have gone to Australia, Europe, Japan, or wherever, they've always tried to represent themselves as Americans, but as as powerful people, but also they want to represent themselves as ambassadors of their country and try to work with the other countries. We're very accommodating when we live. Especially, I've seen expatriates who've left America and have gone to these different countries. Sure. They adopt that country's culture, traditions, and values.
All right, that point well taken. I'm going in the other direction.
Okay.
I'm making the argument right now that the United States is not a nationalistic country as the European countries.
Culturally nationalistic.
Yes. The bloodlines too. I mean, the Japanese have the same blood
thousands of years,
and so do the French.
3,000 years, and the French do.
Right.
Americans don't, because we are what kind of pot?
A melting pot.
A melting pot. But herein lies the beauty of what we are and the problem of what we are as Americans. In that it's a melting pot, new land, newly discovered, come on over, kick out the Native Americans, give them casinos and all of that stuff. We welcomed everybody, but what culture would dominate? What nationality would dominate?
What nationality in America? You can't say a
None.
nationality dominates.
Well,
What dominated? What was the uniting
America.
factor?
well,
America,
but
you're an American.
English. I mean, original. Well,
easy question. This is
It's
Civics 101.
Italian. Christopher. There was no one
No, it's
here
about
till
Christianity.
I'm
Columbus.
not asking the question properly.
You're talking about religious.
What's the unifying component of America?
Judeo-Christian values?
No, even more specifically. What does everybody have to agree to in order to be an American?
Oh, Constitution.
The United States Constitution. Okay. So we didn't when we started this country, we didn't say, what tribe are you with, as Islam requires in many, many respects. There is no tribe.
And that's the reason we were a republic. And explaining what a republic is.
We had a contract with a piece of paper.
Right.
You want to join our club? You got to agree to the piece of paper. Go ahead. How's the republic fit into that?
Well, we're not a democracy.
I'm going to try looking this way. Oh, no, I can't. When we have somebody on, the monitor's over here, but it's the reverse. So next time we have somebody on, I'm going to look over here.
I have a pretty picture of a melting pot you could look at.
How are you, Ori? How are you, Ari?
And, the difference between, people keep saying we're a democracy, but we're not a democracy. We are the furthest thing from a democracy that there is because we are a republic. Now, what does that mean?
That's it. You just had it right there. Put that picture back up. At 19 minutes after 4 o'clock on the 11th here, December, folks, we're talking about the concept of nationality versus culture versus a contract with the people. Point we're making is we're going to take a look at Geert Wilders, the parliamentarian from the Netherlands, and his recent speech where he raises these issues of assimilation and calls for the throwing out of Moroccans from his country. Here's a elected official telling his country we got to throw people out simply because they didn't do what we're going to talk about right now. Show that melting pot. Go ahead. Continue with your republic concept, and we'll tie this all in a nice
it's very easy. If you want to look at it this way, a democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner.
Wait a minute, you're getting me confused. Democracy, we've got two wolves, Wolf A, Wolf B, and they each have a vote.
Right.
And they're gonna vote for what's
for dinner with the sheep.
Oh, and there's a sheep there. There's three people in a room.
Right. Two wolves and a sheep.
And the majority rules.
Right.
And you got two wolves and you got a sheep.
And voting
if this was an Italian thing, one of the wolves goes to the sheep. How much is it worth for my vote? How much is my vote going to be worth? You know?
How about I just take your fur and a couple of shekels?
And a couple of shkadols here.
So for the sheep and a democracy, it's not a very good place to be, because he's going to get
Democracy would be very bad for
the
that
sheep.
sheep. Yes.
But in a republic where you have a piece of paper that says you cannot eat sheep, and that piece of paper being, this thing right here, if I can pull it up real quick, our little Constitution says you can't eat sheep. So therefore, the rule of law outweighs the rule of the people. So that's the reason this thing with Obama's been coming out saying, I'm above this piece of paper, which is the Constitution,
which we're showing.
Lex Rex and Rex Lex.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And
he's above
therefore,
the law.
that's the reason we are a
Rex
republic.
Obama.
That's the reason we are a republic. And I'll prove it to you, Tom. Cite for me the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag.
to the, what was the other one I did the other
Oh
day?
God, that dope from Colorado.
Yeah, that's my flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America.
And to the democracy.
No.
No,
The democracy.
the Republic, you
Republic.
dope.
Oh, to the republic.
Or
which
is it
it
to the
stands.
king for which we stand?
To the
emperor?
Christians. for
I
which it
pledge
stands.
allegiance to Allah
Yes.
and
So-
the
it's a
United
republic.
States of the Ummah.
We are technically, classically, politically, and legally a republic.
I mean, this is the reason our
Representative
country is so unique, is because of that piece of paper
Yes.
that says your rights are ordained by God, a supreme being, a divine person.
Providence, yes.
Providence. These rights are inalienable. You cannot take them away no
Let me
matter
see
what
that
you
melting
vote.
pot again, because that fits in very well. If we can see that melting pot.
Yep. Yeah, these rights are inalienable. You cannot take them away, no matter what happens.
Oh, that was
And
pretty
therefore-
slick, Trent.
Yeah,
though.
that's
That's
pretty
pretty slick, except I had to
So
tape
all the
on.
rights
Tom
of these
is taping
Chinese.
his equipment to his head.
Put it back on. Let's show the folks what's going on.
So
I got wires all over the place. I had
Yeah,
a tape,
David.
one fell off, so I tried to trick the audience.
yeah, where's
I
the
pulled
makeup
this
girl?
thing up too-
Where's the makeup girl?
And
We need a
money.
Makeup, please.
Here on WSBR 740.
Is that the station? Yeah. WSBR 740.
But anyway, that basic civics lesson is what a lot of Americans do not understand. And I'm not saying it's ignorance, because
You don't even have to understand the republic thing. You got to understand the melting pot. That's pretty simple.
Right.
Somebody comes over. My relatives came over from Italy, and they first of all, they left Italy because there was a lot of problems, but they heard about the opportunities in America, and they wanted to assimilate.
Right.
They wanted to speak the language. They wanted to eat the food. They wanted to do all this stuff. Now, they never abandoned their culture,
Right.
but they brought their culture in line with the American principles of the republic.
Right.
And they said, we are Americans.
Right.
And it wasn't derogatory, but whenever they saw somebody who was like here before them, they're Medigans, Americans, right? And that whole thing has worked well, and the Italian community has assimilated phenomenally into,
Yes, as
into this
most
culture.
European.
The Irish, the Germans, many for the longest time the Hispanics did too. Now there's
Absolutely.
this
Now,
whole-
now that's what I was going to get into. Even the majority of the Hispanic community has always assimilated here, and
Yes.
it's not until really. You could go to the Mariel boat lift of the early 80s to where the Cuban community didn't bother to assimilate. The Cuban community in Miami was one of the most outstanding conservative
Yep.
ethnic communities in this country.
Yep.
Because you had people that were fleeing communism and
They understood
appreciated America and wanted to come here. And if you went down to Hialeah, the houses were kept perfect, the lawns were immaculate. And it wasn't until Castro sent over all the damn criminals
well,
that
exactly
the
right,
assimilation left. And now with the border wide open and half of Central America and Mexico coming through, assimilation is over in the Hispanic communities.
and with Obama bypassing the immigration system, just going to make it worse, because to become an American citizen is extremely. Have you tried to take the test
I have
80%
seen
of
the
Americans
test.
fail.
I have
80% of
seen the
U.S.-born
test.
citizens fail that test.
I would
taking it for
probably fail it
practice.
right now because there's so many little particular things you have to study.
But that is a very difficult test to pass. And actually, the immigration system that we have to let people in on a controlled basis is actually a good
a
policy.
beautiful system.
It's a beautiful
1.3
system.
million people a year
Every
are
year.
allowed here legally.
Legally. Yep.
And if you have those people learn the idea of a constitution, republic, and all this stuff, and they become more educated about our government than most of the Americans are.
And that piece of paper that you showed before, the United States Constitution, took us through a revolution. Then 100 years later, took us through a civil war. Then 50, 60 years later, took us through a world war. Then 20, 30 years later, took us through another world war. And then things started to unravel in the 60s. In the
Yes.
60s, when there's a lot of reasons for it, things started to slowly unravel. And that thing which defined Americans, the
Progressivism.
Constitution, is now being pushed aside to have some sort of leftist, brown, green, purple. Everybody does their own thing, and
It's a living, breathing, changing document all of a sudden.
All of a sudden.
Man, when you just went through the years and the wars, to think that the Civil War to World War I was actually very similar time period from World War II to now.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
We're a young country.
We're
We
a
are
young
a
country,
very
but
young
this
country.
document did well. It did men and women well. In fact, men and women died for it. And now this president, Rex Obama, the reason why we say Rex Obama, ladies and gentlemen, on WSBR Radio and at theunitedwest.org, Tom Trento here, your host, Enemies of the State. We classify President Obama as indeed an enemy of the state, ideological enemy of the state. He does not love America. He loves the fact that America is giving him stuff. He's a neo-Marxist. And we're referring to him today as Rex Obama because Rex is Latin for king, Lex is Latin for law. And Rex believes he's above the law of the Constitution. So we have Rex Obama. If we had Obama with a crown on, we'd really be cool here today, folks. But, hey, what can you ask? By the way,
Actually,
in about 2 months, we'll be in a new studio, and we're going to have audience participation. We're going to have so many cool things. Keep your dollars coming. End of the year contribution. We're a nonprofit organization, tax exempt. You can help us out that way. Thank you for joining in every day. Spread the word. Oh, my word, if you had the benefit of the visual look at the show right now on our massive studio, we have Rex Obama behind
Yes,
me
we do.
with his crown on. And as you know, the United West has 4 elements to our mission. One is to defend this piece of paper we're talking about that requires assimilation. We don't hate Muslims. We don't hate anybody.
Right.
But we love our country and our Constitution more than we love Sharia law.
Right.
All right? So
Speak
if you're going
for
to come
yourself.
here, yeah, well, that's true. If you're going to come here, leave the Sharia at the door and adopt the United States Constitution. But guess what? You can't do that, can you?
Of course not. It is not permitted.
yep.
That's why Islam, as it invades other countries, has always taken the country down. Show me one place where Islam has penetrated a culture that was one culture and has improved that culture. Show me that anywhere.
Every place it has been, it has improved. It is in the Muslim eye, maybe not in your Western cultural civilized version, but everywhere we put it, we have managed to take away all the creature comforts, all the technology, all the cultural events, and we get it right back down to the basic Quran and Hadith.
What is the major technological advance that Islam has brought to the world?
The space shuttle, the cell phone, the polio vaccine.
No, that'd be Israel.
Yeah, you're getting
There is no
Islam.
Israel. There is no Israel.
There is no Israel.
Or what type of cultural advance has Islam brought to the world?
There is no.
Zero. The number is zero.
Zero.
What are you talking about?
Share with us.
The women do not cheat on their husbands.
You know,
what
I
about Nobel Prizes?
Nobel Prizes, yeah.
Let us just say, if we want to steal your Nobel Prizes, we come and take them.
You know, I went
because
to the-
listen, in the end, we're going to massacre the Jews anyway, and we will take all of their Nobel Prizes.
Oh, there you go. That makes sense.
You know, I went to this great Islamic movie the other day.
I'm listening. I'm having
was-
computer issues here.
I went to the great Islamic movie. I think it's up for like 5 Academy Awards. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Wrong one.
Sorry, wrong one, wrong culture.
Wrong
Seriously,
culture.
what major cultural, scientific, technological, what type of medical research has Islam brought to the world? Anything. Name me one thing.
Well, look, Abdullah is an imam, Pakistani Taliban, correct?
Of course.
And that,
But I love the whole Ummah. My sympathies are most with the Palestinians.
But you don't spend a whole lot of time trying to figure out scientific.
Absolutely not.
technological
We're
stuff.
reading Quran, Hadith, banging our heads on the ground 5 times a day.
So it would be unfair to put you in a position where your subject matter expertise doesn't reside. But maybe we can look up Islamic scientific contributions to the world. And
Did we go to that crazy exhibition one time?
Yes, you go to the
2001.
museum. It was like
2001. Oh my God.
it was at the National Geographic headquarters in Washington D.C. You, me, a couple of others.
I mean, did we
The
laugh?
1,001 inventions of Islam.
Or was it 2000? 1001.
1001.
That's right.
So it was like $20 a piece to get in.
We
go
had to go
in,
see this.
and we figured this is going to be a gigantic place. A little tiny room, not very big. You sit down first. You watch this movie with Ben-
Gandhi.
With Gandhi, the guy who played Gandhi, and he kind of magically takes you through Islam as the purveyor of all these.
Why the hell would they have
phenomenal
Gandhi doing this?
It was the guy who played Ben Vereen, not Ben.
Ben Vereen.
Whatever the heck his name was.
Bing Gazzara? No.
Ben, yeah. No. Another Ben somebody.
We're driving the audience crazy in the
Bin
cars.
Laden. So we go to the first display. And a lot of money went into these things. They were beautiful displays. And it was the display on Islam inventing rocketry, rockets. And we started looking at it, and they had
They had a guy strapping like a bomb to his backpack.
Yeah.
I go, no, that's the first IED.
They had a guy standing on a cliff with a tube on his back, like a firecracker thing, and with a belt around him. And that was the invention of rocketry, right?
You remember that those
He
those
jumped off the cliff and died, was the way it went, but that was the invention of a rocket. It was the invention of the first IED, is what it was. Oh, it was hysterical. So
they apparently we did not know this. Islam invented flight, invented medicine, invented perfume.
America?
Yeah,
America, they've been here.
Oh yeah, and they discovered America. We didn't know that.
Look, for all of you who follow the system of Islam, there's a religious element to it, but it's primarily a political system, and it necessitates political supremacy. It necessitates commitment. It necessitates obligation to serve. It necessitates war. It has all of these components to control this life, to get into an afterlife. And all we say to our Muslims, brothers and sisters, don't be caught up in the very fatalistic system of Islam. Consider a Western approach, a logical approach to truth, and test the principles of Islam to see if they're coherent and consistent with that which you know to be true. Listen to this true story. Muslims are not allowed to question the validity of their own faith.
Of course not.
Not allowed to. Why?
Blasphemous.
It's blasphemous.
Yes.
Inherently, if you question whether or not Allah exists, you're questioning whether or not Allah exists. Therefore, you're blasphemous.
Sharia
Therefore,
law.
you're wrong.
Never
Therefore,
to be
you're out,
forgiven.
right? If you question whether or not the Quran is authentic, valid, real, legitimate, then you're showing a lack of confidence. You're wrong. You're out. These are serious theological
Hellfire
doctrines.
for you.
I had a debate with an imam once, University of South Florida, Jihad U. And I got up, full room, everyone's in hijabs, all of that, and the women too were dressed. And I started my presentation by congratulating the students in that room I said, many of you are about to graduate from University of South Florida, a fairly prestigious school. I said, your degrees, most of the degrees are in the sciences, computer sciences, engineering. I said, this is phenomenal. You worked 4 hard years for your undergraduate degree. Some were doing their PhDs. I said, and you exhibited phenomenal capabilities of analysis, of research, of didactic thinking, of scientific exploration. You could not get those degrees if you did not demonstrate proficiency and expertise at a logical approach to problem solving and then finding the correct solution through experimentation and successful application of these principles. You could not have gotten the degrees, and you earned them. And you have my praise for doing that.
But
And they're all there like this. And then there was the segue. I said, but what I'm asking you to do today is to take those skills that you learned to accomplish yourselves in your given scientific or practical areas of study. This ability to evaluate, to do research, to do problem solving, to test. Take those skills and apply it to this question. Is Islam true? And their whole, you know, but when you speak enough to an audience,
You see, boom.
everything went like this. They just started to shrink like the air came out.
like a shrinking
I
violet.
said, all I'm asking you, I said, I'm a Christian and I disagree fundamentally with the truth claims of Islam. I'm not saying that to hate you. I'm saying that to challenge you, and you can disagree with me. That's fine. I said, but please consider that your religious position that you have, however you got it, is wrong, and test it, just like you've tested everything to earn these sheepskins you're getting.
Theorems. Test the theorem.
Within 10 minutes, they are lining up to ask questions and yelling at me. They were furious with me. 80% of the Muslims in that room were furious with me.
Did anyone try to chop your head off?
Nobody tried to chop my head off.
That is surprising.
It was a little surprising. It was very sad to me. Someone who values the art of investigation, the art of apologetics, to test the truth claims to see if they're valid or not. I'm a Christian, not because I was raised in a Christian family, because I kind of blew all of that off. I'm a Christian because I've tested the questions. Where do you come from? Why are you here? Where are you going? Who is this? What is that? I've tested them. And at this point, the belief system that I hold to, Christianity, answers those questions better than any other of the religions, Judaism, Christianity, any of these. I believe that my religion makes more sense than any other ones. That's why I follow my religion. Do I hate others and other religions? Of course not. I challenge others to think this through, but do I feel bad when someone can't even apply what they've learned and mastered to their own faith, and they're stuck in this thing? And this is why they can't assimilate.
It makes you wonder why they got the education in the first place. If they're going to close off part of their mind to ever being able to evaluate
What's
anything.
the point? What's the point?
Yeah, there's a tremendous disconnect there, and it's very, very sad. But the point we're making today, 39 minutes after 4 o'clock in our discussion on Geert Wilders' talk about non-assimilation in the Netherlands, and the fact that we have a serious non-assimilation problem right now here in the United States, and it's going to get worse, because as the various problems are occurring in the Middle East and Islamic countries, we have all kinds of NGOs, non-government organizations, and all kinds of goofy Christian organizations reaching out to the Somalis, reaching out to the Moroccans, reaching out to the people from Yemen, who primarily are Islamic Sharia compliant people, and bringing them and planting them in the middle of Idaho and Tennessee,
Right.
Minnesota.
and, and all these different places, and they don't want to assimilate. How do we solve that kind of problem?
Well, they don't have to assimilate because of the way that our program for importing them works is we just give We let them form their own neighborhoods that they never get out of. They never bother to learn English. They hate America and try and join ISIS.
And they revert back to what they know. It's very simple. I mean, if you're brought up, your family's brought up, and your whole culture is brought up, and then all of a sudden you're transplanted immediately from culture A to culture B, you know nothing, and you're not giving the proper tools. Like, you must study for an exam to get your citizenship. You must do this metric to get to point A to point B. You must do all those steps it takes to become a citizen. It's, you end up with them bringing their crappy culture, ideological system, and values over to here, and we become to the lowest common denominator. We don't raise them up; they lower us down with their wrong-minded ideology.
Look at some of the Muslim enclaves around the country in Dearborn, Michigan, areas of Chicago, certainly areas of New York, certainly areas of Minnesota and Tennessee, where there's absolutely zero chance of near-term assimilation. Our refugee, quote, refugee program has not insisted on these people making any effort to learn the language or the culture, and they basically live in these cesspools, and they're becoming no-go zones, similar to what has happened in France and Sweden and Germany and other European countries. Britain, it's absolutely ridiculous, and we're heading down the same path.
Yes,
So what do we do? What's the solution?
Close the borders, for one.
And that's the reason the immigration thing is so important. I mean, it really is. And we see that with Geert Wilders and his problems and in his country, what has happened. Because Geert lays it out perfectly, Tom. He really does. And, his experience in his country is a microcosm of what is going to happen in our culture if we do not wake up and smell the coffee.
Yeah, and his speech, which I lost on my computer here, I'm looking for it.
I can send it back to you.
Yeah, if you could send it back. Yeah, send it back to me. His speech he gave fits in very perfectly with what was that? With what we're doing.
Damon decided to go off on a tangent on me. Didn't tell me.
I'm sending it back to him.
I thought you were sending it back to me on that computer.
42 minutes after 4 o'clock. Tom Trento here, your host, Enemies of the State. I have a few folks in the audience. We have some guests today with us. Hello, guests. How are you doing? Don't say anything, because you may not. You may be put on a hate list or something. But we got Mark and Damon in here, and some others, so people can visit us, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. If you write a check large enough, you can come in the studio and visit us. We do need a donation, so please help us out with that. But you're sending me back the Geert Wilders deal. I want to talk about Michael Hayden, too, back on the CIA issue. Hayden was the head of the NSA, National Security Agency, which listens all around the world to everybody. And, 2 days ago, we had Feinstein and McCain come out, waterboard the CIA with the support of this totally one-sided partisan attack against the CIA regarding these issues of torture. Hayden is coming out vociferously and aggressively over these past couple of days, and he's saying, "Hey, I was there, guys. You're talking about how bad this program was of enhanced interrogation techniques. I was there." And Feinstein and McCain are saying that absolutely no result. Think of the absurdity. I want everybody in the audience at 44 minutes after 4 o'clock to think of the absurdity of this statement that, we'll use the word torture, that torture over all the terrorists that have been captured, over all the years, torture has never provided any actionable intelligence.
That's just ridiculous.
It is
And it's
beyond
total-
imagination.
It's total
that you can
insanity.
say that.
That is another thing that we invented, by the way. Torture.
That will give you, and the fact is, what the Islamic State does, cutting people's tongues out and putting sweet stuff on parts of male bodies and putting them in the desert and chopping off heads and crucifying them. Okay, now we're talking torture. Keeping a guy awake at night with rock and roll music that's a frat house.
That's
you know,
called
that's
the
what
Navy.
that is.
That's called a Navy SEAL program.
Yeah, that's a SEAL program. So Hayden's coming out. We're going to do more work on this because we happen to know quite a few folks who currently work for the agency, but in the past have worked and committed their lives to do this work and made it through, lost friends. And this is an unfair attack against the Central Intelligence Agency. And it's very similar. You guys have been saying it. It's very similar to the nonsense going on in Ferguson and now in Berkeley. Berkeley, 150 people got arrested. Berkeley's a cesspool of a city, if you've ever been in Berkeley, California. Really stupid city. Stupid people run it. I was very involved with the government for a while and spent a lot of time there. But what we're seeing in Ferguson is the attack against uniform officers standing for constitutional privileges, constitutional protection in the street. What we're seeing in the attack of the CIA is ununiformed officers policing the world being attacked by the left. It's always the left that's attacking, always the Democrats that are attacking.
Because they hate America.
They hate America.
They hate Israel because Israel's the little.
Well, we have that situation in Israel. Let's just highlight that. Then we'll put all of this in the context of Wilders' talk. Yesterday in Samaria, there was a protest, and one of the Palestinian ministers, now technically a minister is an elected official. When you have an election, you have officials who are members of a parliament, and then the ruling party, the party in power, selects individuals who have been elected who will now administratively lead something. And in the United States, we call that the president's cabinet. This fella, Abu Ian, that's his
Ein,
name.
I believe.
Ein, I-E-N.
E-I-N.
We had Ari Agozi on yesterday, who's very in touch with national security in Israel. He said, Abu Ayn, the guy who died, the Palestinian who died, was not a minister, a formal minister. He's simply an activist. But you found something. What did you find?
He is the minister of protests. He was assigned.
I'm almost choked here. What did you say?
Yes. He was appointed the minister of protests for the West Bank to protest against the Israeli Zionist occupation.
So the Palestinian Authority.
So he's a community organizer.
He's a community organizer.
Yes.
But they're
Yes, we see how effective the protests in Gaza were with your Michael Ferguson Brown and the Garner case in New York, and we say, you know what? We are very good at the protest and the throwing the bombs and the Molotov cocktails and the rocks, but you inspire us. Thank you, Ferguson. Thank you, New York. Thank you, Berkeley. You have given us in Palestine motivation.
I can't buy that theory because we never saw one Palestinian flag in Ferguson.
Tom, you were not looking then.
Oh, wait. Yes, there were Palestinian flags in Ferguson, and there were signs relating Gaza and the Palestinian situation to... Oh, yes, there were.
Yes.
So do you mean to tell me some of the community organizers, some of whom were the Nation of...
Islam.
The Nation of Islam.
The wonderful Dr. Farrakhan.
Who were involved in Ferguson, do you think they have telecommunication capability to their fellow Islam activists, maybe in Samaria?
Of course, we invented the internet.
Okay, so maybe they said, dude, we got a program going on here, and we're screwing with the United States. Get with it. Do a Fergie on Samaria. You think that could have happened?
Of course.
No, never. Those things never
happen.
Twitter doesn't exist. The internet doesn't exist. Social media doesn't exist. The coordination of tactics worldwide doesn't exist. That's exactly what happened, folks. Now, there's a dispute as to how this activist died. There was a confrontation. The police, the Israeli IDF shot tear gas to disperse the crowd. And we do have footage. There's video footage of a lot of this, and there's video footage of the activist Abu Ain on the ground. Looks clearly like he's suffering from a heart attack. But there it is right there on the screen, folks, at 50 minutes after 4 o'clock. We're showing an individual who died yesterday in Palestine, community activist, in a protest with the IDF in Samaria, which the Palestinians call the West Bank. He's gasping for air. They're treating him. And the United Nations got involved in this immediately because apparently he has some status in the PA, Palestinian.
Well, that and any time there is an opportunity to attack Israel, the UN is más rápido.
But Netanyahu called for an open, transparent investigation. But the testimony of the Palestinians is that an IDF soldier hit this gentleman in the chest with the butt of the rifle. Is there any footage of that right now?
Of course not.
Okay, let's see if that shows up. This may be one of those hands up, don't shoot events that.
This is the Palestinian Ferguson. Is what it is. Exactly what it is.
But the Palestinians never stage anything. Now, this guy did die. He is dead. But the Israeli side saying, yeah, he died. He was in a crowd. There was tear gas, all of that. He had a heart attack. So, it's a stressful situation for a guy with a bad heart.
Yeah, he looks like he did have. Understanding the heart problems, you're looking at what he was going through on the ground, and it looks like he has the classic signs of having a heart attack.
Heart attack. All right, well, we'll leave it open. I mean, if indeed an Israeli ran up to a guy who was just standing there for no reason and hit him in the chest, that's looking in context. That is wrong, and the Israelis have taken.
Tom, look what we have here on the screen.
Oh, what are you doing? Look at that on the screen at 52 minutes after 4 o'clock. We have on the screen in Gaza.
No,
clearly.
this is actually in Missouri.
This is in Missouri?
This is in Missouri.
But it says from Ferguson to Palestine, occupation is a crime.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so in Missouri.
That's the Palestinian flag.
Oh, and the Palestinian flag.
Yeah.
So the Ferguson protests somehow. Another.
Oh my God. They actually have. This is a pre-print. This is actually like a $300 sign they had pre-printed.
That's a
from
sign.
Palestine to Ferguson in racism
And
now.
racism now. So it's a racism issue and it's an occupation.
Of course, we always
Right.
claim it is racism. Isn't that funny?
Okay.
What is so very funny is that when we claim the racism, Islam is such a racist ideology in the first place, yet we claim victimhood of racism. You people are stupid.
Well, let's go to Geert Wilders and see what he says.
Okay.
This is on the 8th of December, 3 days ago, at Den Haag. Den Haag is The Hague. I've been there. I've been in his office. I've interviewed him in his office. He said, our freedom is being threatened. Threatened by a violent, totalitarian ideology. Guess which one?
Islam.
That brings with it death and devastation. Threatened by a politically correct elite that does not tolerate criticism of Islam and mass immigration that nurtures cultural relativism. I rise up against this. That's what Geert Wilders said in his opening at The Hague, December 8th, 3 days ago. And then he lays out an unbelievable statement that splits the world in half as it relates to Islam. And you know what we're going to do?
What's that?
Because this is so critically important. We have a unique day tomorrow where we address some of the peculiarities of Islam.
Right.
What day is that?
Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday.
We're gonna take a look at this in more detail. We're gonna take a couple of clips from a speech Geert gave for the United West some years ago that you videotaped.
Well, also we had him on the show.
We had him here on the show. Yes. So we'll piece this together. It'll be a very, very important show tomorrow, indicating a leading member of a European country right now, and his party, the Party for Freedom, is the number one party in the Netherlands. They have 19 million people there. They are fed up with Islamic immigrants that do not assimilate. And they have an invitation to the Muslims that are there who have assimilated, stay. You're Dutch now. You love our country. We love you. For those of you who are trying to change Holland into Morocco, time to vamoose, folks.
Right.
And you know what? As the Islamic State continues its onslaught through the Levant, as it's going to move down into other Islamic places, as it festers and spreads through its magazine Dabiq into other Western countries with its independent jihadist activity, the West is going to get fed up with this stuff, and it's going to start here in the United States. And we're going to be at the forefront of alerting the West, as we have been for years with many other
bleeding edge,
folks.
yes.
Yeah.
But you know what's disturbing is you see how the leaders of the Islamic, the so-called leaders, civil rights groups of Islam here in America, is making every effort possible to hook up with these ultra-leftists that are the Ferguson, that are the Occupy Wall Street, that are with the Al Sharptons. I mean, you get the organizing and agitating power of Al Sharpton with the sheer insanity and doctrinal violence of Islam. Not to mention you add in the Nation of Islam and all the other pro-Islam converts. You are looking at the potential for
It's a mess.
a real mess in this country. And obviously they're both minorities. Blacks are what, 13, 14% of the country. Islam is what, 2% of the country. But it only takes 10% of the country, as witnessed in Germany. It only
France,
takes 10% of the country to alter its course.
Yes, it is.
And here's the problem. We have many good patriotic Americans that see this mess and viscerally experience this. We get calls all the time that we have the strong Islamic influence over here and it's changing everything, and there many of these people, their response is, we're gonna have to fight him. We're gonna have to fight him in the streets, inevitably. And the prepper movement, the preparation movement, which was preparing for any catastrophe, whether it's weather-related, man-related, whatever. Now we're starting to see Islam as a threat, and I'm hearing all too much. Well, we'll fight him in the freaking streets. I'm getting more guns. I'm getting more bullets. We'll show them. Whoa, that's
Guys,
exactly what we don't want. That's how you unravel a society.
Why do you think we're doing what we're doing here?
Yes.
This is a media war. I mean,
Yes.
we've been getting our butts kicked in the media over the last decade or two because we've been asleep.
And look, we started this show with that beautiful document that everybody signs on the dotted line. Yes, I will follow the United States Constitution. I will become an American. And for us to now put that down and pick up a gun and go fight somebody in the streets of America is to say this thing has failed.
Yes.
We know the document doesn't fail because we know it's worked, and it's worked effectively. What's changed, the words on the paper didn't reposition themselves and mean something else. The people in the culture have changed and don't like it anymore. That's where the battle is. And it raises this question, and we're not going to be able to answer it. But I want to raise it for our listeners and viewers out there on WSBR, 740 AM.
Tea Party Community.
TeaPartyCommunity.com, UnitedWest.org, all of that, Twitter. We have friends and relatives who are leftists, hard left. These are not dummies. These are not Muslims who came out of some tribe somewhere or people that come out of the bush somewhere. These are intelligent people that went to Ivy League schools. They believe like communists believe.
That's all you get in the Ivy League schools these days.
But what makes them think, when it comes down to voting, the Obama files, they just block off everything. How does that happen?
They block off all their logic and they stop thinking and they just start feeling. The Ferguson's actually a great example of this. All the facts in the world mean nothing. The guy never raised his hands.
Oh, he raised his hands just not to submit.
I mean, we have two problems, ladies and gentlemen. If you're listening to my voice right now or watching it, it's not time to go in the streets and have a revolution with crazy people anywhere. It's time to do your homework, understand the value, the beauty, the majesty of our founding documents, and argue those effectively in the marketplace. This is the battle the information battle for ideas. Our ideas are better than them. We have to creatively come up with ways, like this show, support this show, to beat those guys with the truth.
And
And we can do that, and we will do that. But right now, happy trails. Time to say goodbye. Tom Trento signing off for all the guys here for the United West. And God bless the United States of